What if the love story fans have whispered about for years is no longer a fantasy, but a quiet revolution of the heart unfolding behind locked doors, and the sound of wedding bells is no longer distant, but dangerously close? There are moments in celebrity culture when the boundary between fiction and reality simply dissolves. When what starts as scripted dialogue becomes real emotion. When roles end, but feelings do not. This is where the story of Wang Shen Yue appears to live, not in press releases or official confirmations, but in silent language, in body language, in the pauses in interviews, and in the invisible thread pulling two lives in the same direction, even when the world believes they have moved on. Now, if you're drawn to stories like this, the kind that blur the lines between fantasy and reality, between screen and soul, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because these are the stories we tell. The stories behind your favorite stars, the moments cameras miss, and the truths hiding in plain sight. Stay close, and you'll never miss the next chapter. They first ignited the imagination of millions through Meteor Garden, a modern retelling of a love story that was supposed to stay on the screen. But what the world saw felt too authentic to be manufactured. Their chemistry was not loud, not forced, not theatrical. It was calm, natural, familiar. The kind of closeness that looks like muscle memory, like two people who did not have to reach for connection because they were already standing in it. Yet the real story, many believe, did not begin under studio lights. It began in the quiet. Off camera, something shifted. Dylan, known for his playful energy and carefree persona, began to change in subtle but unmistakable ways. His laughter softened. His focus deepened. In group interviews, he found himself glancing toward Shen Yue without thinking. When she spoke, he didn't just listen. He leaned into the sound of her voice. These were not scripted reactions. These were instincts. Shen Yue, always reserved, always thoughtful, began carrying a new kind of stillness when she was around him. A quiet tension, a soft guardedness. Not insecurity, but protection. Like someone who had something precious and was unconsciously shielding it from the noise of the world. When curiosity turns into obsession and fiction starts to feel like reality, that's when you know you've stepped into the kind of story we live for. And if you want to stay close to stories like this, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Because here, we don't just tell celebrity stories. We uncover the emotions behind them, the moments that cameras miss, and the truths that are never written in headlines. Stay with us, and you'll always be one step ahead of the story. As time passed, the signs didn't disappear. They multiplied. Their schedules began to align in ways fans couldn't ignore. Appearances began to feel carefully spaced, yet strangely coordinated. Whenever one disappeared from the public eye, the other seemed to grow quieter as well. Coincidences began to feel less like luck and more like choreography. Industry insiders spoke in half sentences. Not confirmations, not denials. Just careful silence. And silence, in a world that profits from noise, is its own kind of answer. Something else began to change, too. Dylan became more selective about romantic roles. Shen Yue grew more private than ever before. Not because they were hiding, but because they were protecting. Protecting something still fragile. Still forming. Still real. And then there were the moments that fans saw with their own eyes. A lingering glance. A shared smile that appeared too natural. A laugh that arrived too quickly. The unconscious mirroring of posture, the synchronized movements, the way they seemed to soften in each other's presence. These are not the signs of actors merely replaying chemistry. These are the signals of rhythm, of comfort, of history. The whispers began as jokes. Marriage bells. Secret vows. Hidden relationships. Fans turned them into fantasies because it was safer that way. But slowly, the tone shifted. It no longer sounded like exaggeration. It began to feel like anticipation. Because real love doesn't announce itself early. It moves quietly. It grows roots underground before it ever breaks the surface. Maybe there are no photos of rings yet. No leaked invitations. No official statements. But love doesn't live in official statements. It lives in timing, in patience, in the way two people seem to orbit each other, even when they are meant to be separate. And if one day the world wakes up to the headline that Dylan Wang and Shen Yue are no longer just co-stars, no longer just friends, but partners in life, hand in hand, walking toward forever, it won't feel like a shock. It will feel like the final scene of a story that was always being written. Not by publicists, not by directors, not by scripts, but by two hearts that quietly refuse to forget each other. And yet, the story does not end there. In many ways, it only grows deeper in the quiet spaces where no cameras follow, no headlines reach, and no voices interrupt. Because the most powerful love stories are not built in public. They are built in silence. There were long periods when both Dylan Wang and Shen Yue seemed to disappear from the noise of fame at the same time. Not announced breaks. Not explained absences. Just sudden quiet. To the casual observer, it looked like rest. To those who were paying attention, it looked like alignment. Two lives stepping out of view at the exact moments the world expected them to be seen. Behind that silence, something stronger was forming. Friends close to the industry began noticing shifts in energy. Dylan became calmer, more grounded. The reckless sparkle softened into something steadier, like a man who had found an emotional home. Shen Yue became more confident, more assured, as if she was no longer carrying the world alone. These changes did not look like career evolution. They looked like emotional stability, the kind that often comes from having someone close, someone safe, someone real. There is a certain kind of connection that cannot be staged. It shows up in microexpressions, in breathing patterns, in the way two people stand closer than necessary without realizing it. Whenever they found themselves in the same public space again, years after their iconic drama, that invisible thread was still there. Unbroken, untouched by time. They didn't have to prove anything. They didn't have to act anything. The silence between them spoke loudly enough. And then came the whispers of maturity. It was no longer are they together, but have they already decided something more? The conversations shifted from speculation to inevitability. Marriage bells stopped sounding like fantasy and started sounding like prophecy. Because when two people move through fame, pressure, distance, and time, and still return to the same emotional frequency, that is not coincidence. That is not luck. That is not marketing. That is choice. People close to both of them began to notice a different kind of discipline, a carefulness in how their private lives were handled, a protective wall built not from fear, but from value. Things are protected when they matter too much to be exposed too early. And that is the most dangerous sign of all. Not chaos, not scandal, not headlines, but peace. Because peace is what happens when something real is being quietly guarded. If there is one truth that surrounds their story, it is this: whatever exists between them does not live for the public. It does not breathe for the audience. It does not survive for fan theories. It exists because it exists. And if that quiet bond continues to deepen, if that invisible thread continues to tighten, then the sound of wedding bells won't arrive like thunder. It will arrive like a natural echo of something that has been there all along. One day, when the world least expects it, the announcement may come. Or it may not. Some stories don't need announcements. Some stories don't need proof. Some stories are real simply because they lasted in silence, where fake things collapse. And when people look back, when the truth eventually whispers its way into the light, they won't ask, "How did this happen?" They will ask, "How did we not see it sooner?"